Hello! So, here's the situation. The Philippines plans to increase its bioethanol blending mandate from the current 10% bioethanol blending to 20% by 2020. But, given the status of the local bioethanol industry, the projected local bioethanol capacity in 2020 is only about 45% of the bioethanol supply requirement in 2020 and 2020. As a result of this challenge, UPLBFI, Mike Darby International, and University of the Philippines Los Baños bring you the Philippine Ethanol Policy Paper entitled Ethanol in the Philippines, Injecting Octane into the Bioeconomy. Let us start with the background. The government of the Philippines implemented the Biofuels Act of 2006 to simultaneously promote energy self-sufficiency, mitigate climate change, and enhance economic development, particularly in rural areas. By virtue of the Act, a 5% bioethanol blending mandate was initiated in 2009 and was increased to 10% in 2012. By 2020, the government plans to increase the blending to 20%. Market grew over the years. Local supply increased 10 times over the span of 7 years, reducing importation to half the bioethanol requirement. With the expected entry of 2 more distilleries in 2020, local capacity can cover 90% of the current requirement at E10. Biofuels policy is perceived to be a success. Since the implementation of the Act, the country avoided 10 million tons of greenhouse gases, created 1.2 million rural employment, and 48 billion foreign exchange savings, and stopped the use of methyl-tert butyl ether. Increasing the blending to E20 by 2020 means gaining more greenhouse gas avoidance, rural employment, and forex savings while contributing to the country's energy mix. This also corresponds to a rise in bioethanol supply requirement with a realistic local capacity of 386 million liters in 2020. 2 main challenges were identified to bridge the gap: insufficient feedstock availability and high domestic ethanol price. To date, the country uses only molasses and sugarcane for bioethanol, but molasses is insufficient for an E20 blend. Meanwhile, sugarcane for bioethanol is limited to the marginal and underutilized lands. Moreover, use of other feedstocks must not include rice, corn, and other cereals due to food security. The higher price of ethanol than gasoline affects the pump price of transport fuel. This can be linked to debatable ethanol pricing scheme, inefficient farming, high wastewater processing and management costs, circumvention of priority dispatch fallacy, and the least electricity prioritization of the gas cogeneration. With the current local scenario and identified challenges, 3 policy options were assessed to realize the shift from E10 to E20 by 2020. E20M using imported molasses, E20E using imported ethanol, and E20ME 50% imported molasses and 50% imported ethanol. 8 criteria were shortlisted for analysis: energy security, food security, economic cost, rural economy, environmental aspects, political acceptability, investment attractiveness, and technical consideration. Results showed that E20E or ethanol importation tends to be the preferred option. This option means about 3.4 million tons of GHG emissions will be avoided in 2020. 18 billion forex will be contributed and 16,877 jobs will be generated. This also means significant contribution to the mix, does not require additional investment, and improves trade balance. Ethanol importation has been the solution to ensure continued implementation of the biofuels policy since 2009. Thereby waiving Section 5.2, which allows importation only until 2013. Section 2 also prohibits imported feedstocks. Therefore, all 3 options require congressional amendment. Pursuing E20 in 2020 would signal a guaranteed market, which may increase the attractiveness of bioethanol. Ultimately, the increase in ethanol blending to E20 will position the Philippines as a global leader in renewable energy policy. I hope this presentation gave you a glimpse to our study. Thanks for all your support.
Created using Powtoon.